Hello everyone, and welcome to another video with me, Umber Rays. Even with some of the controversy that has come up, there are still people who are probably going to play Wotv, and I do think this game is fun. And just a heads up for everybody out there who's thinking about quitting. Yes, quitting, they do not like people who quit this game. They do not like people who quit their games, but trust me, they hate it even more when you keep playing their game and you spend nothing. That really gets them angry. So just a thought for the Christmas season. But I'm not here to make Gumi happy at all. I'm here to give you guys the lowdown about these Christmas characters. I'm going to talk about all of the Christmas characters, including Ramada, Mashy, and of course brand new Christmas Venera. I'm going to go through all of these characters and give my general thoughts about the previous two ones, and then go into more depth about Venera in a little bit. So let's take a look at the older units first, because I think that these two units are a pretty good place to start. So first of all, Christmas Ramada. Christmas Ramada is a mix of soldier, ninja, and basically, pugilist like fists. The older style, not the newer style fighter one, which is actually a way better class. The way to think about Christmas Ramada is that she is basically a water version of original Stern, and that does not exactly bode super well for her. But why am I specifically talking about this? One, I do believe that this banner, the Christmas banner, will come to global, and therefore I should kind of cover these units. But second of all, all three of these characters, all three of the Christmas characters are getting EX jobs at the same time. So it's a good time to just take a look over each of these units. Taking a look at Ramada, I have to say that this is a character that, well, I was pretty excited about her last year because Stern was, pretty darn decent, and heck, now there's still some water synergy. Taking a look at Ramada's EX job, there are a couple of people I've talked to already who have said basically that Christmas Ramada may be in the running for the worst EX job of all. Honestly, the EX improvements to this character are almost laughable. There's no improvements to her passives, no improvement to her counter abilities. Only two skills get upgraded. One that essentially the one that costs her some HP but gives her an attack boost now also nullifies Paralyze, Stop, and Doom. Who cares? And the other one to be upgraded gives not only a damage boost, but yeah, just a damage boost actually. I thought it also now inflicted Doom, but it seems like Doom was already on there. So it just gives a damage boost. Yeah, Ramada's kit. Looking at her stats are incredibly bad still. Her HP doesn't get enough of an improvement to really fix how brittle she was in the past. And while her attack is really high, I have to say overall that her EX job is incredibly unimpressive. The upgrade is unimpressive, and I consider this unit pretty much DOA. And while I think that Ramada is an absolutely awesome character, I really think that you should just wait for a new version of her that is not limited. This is a 100% pass, but you know what? I'll give a shout out to how cool the Limit Burst looks here. Yeah. You will not be riding on this girl's coattails to success, because super unimpressive EX, the less we talk about it, probably the better. All right, next up is Christmas Mashy, and Christmas Mashy has the interesting little position of being a fire spear character and one of the first fire limiteds. Interesting how that trend has continued all year. As opposed to like Ramada, whose TMR is, just an attack boost and a movement boost for a little while, I think that Mashy's TMR of restoring AP to units of like 15 is not super impressive. And the fact that it's 360p, this character wasn't overly impressive before. And taking a look at her stats now, the bonuses that she gets from EX, I mean, not... How do I say this? Not terrible for a Dragoon, but it feels incredibly outdated. For Spear units, there have been much better units, and if you want to compare this versus Kayn, even if she does get a slight advantage over Kayn because she has an EX job, she has an EX job in 20 extra levels. She should have kind of a stat advantage against him, but it's not enough. It's not interesting. She's nowhere close or anywhere near as good as Kayn. This is another 100% skip unit, and I have to say that both of the old Christmas units ended up being massively disappointing in their EX. Talking a little bit more about this unit, some of the things that she does get upgraded, again, just 2 skills basically. An upgrade to one of hers that gives her an attack boost, but now also gives her a defense boost too, but only a maxed out increase of a defense of 15 for 3 turns, which is incredibly underwhelming considering that most units have enough defense penetration to make that completely null and void. Also, her only other attack to get upgraded basically just gets a bonus, it looks like, in terms of either range or damage. It's not impressive. Nothing about this unit is particularly great. And this is another one that I just think is a 100% pass, which is kind of important just talking about it in terms of global. But I have to admit here that the limit burst animation is pretty cute. In terms of like Christmas themed, it is wonderful. So I'm going to give a shout out to both Ramada and Christmas Mashy, Christmas version of both of them. That very wonderful in terms of the Christmas spirit, but in terms of both of these units and spending resources on them, it's a 100% no. And giving a look at their EX job, very, very easy pass. All right, but let's get into what I think everybody's really waiting for, Christmas Venera. And hi-ho if we don't have something that is pretty decent here, actually. Again, there's a little bit of a weirdness here in terms of what I'm going to recommend this character, because I do see a very strong purpose for this character, but it is PvP and PvE, like in terms of difficulty. This is not a farm character. I think that her use is pretty limited, and she is very particular in terms of who she should be used against. So Trust Mastery, let's get into that real quick. It's a hat, 443 HP, 8 defense, 10 evade. Gives an ability that can be used 2 times for 24 TP, increase move by 1 for 1 turn for self, and accuracy by a maxed out of 70 for 1 turn for self. 1 turn is not good enough. I think that even though it is a massive boost to accuracy, and I think that's really, really, really good, I have to say that I think that this is pretty darn underwhelming in terms of a Trust Mastery ability. Even if the stats do look, kind of nice here with a little bit of evasion and some HP, a good amount of HP, I just don't think that there is enough here to support this. So, yeah, this feels kind of meh. All right, I've talked a little bit about it before, but for anybody who didn't see my previous video, Fighter, Ninja, and Spellblade, and this should give you a hint as to what direction they want you to take this character. I have seen the friend version 120, level 120 version that Gumi has built, the developers, for testing this brand new character. Should be noted that she has Larudo's Fist, I do believe it's the Platinum Ring or the Alexandrite Ring. It's the UR one for sure. I just can't remember. And they've gone with a build on her of going with Titan as well as the Golem card. So it's kind of interesting putting her in a party because she's essentially built for HP, and with Titan, who doesn't support her damage type at all. And we'll get back to this in a second, but it does kind of illustrate. The Venera build that I saw had 7,000 HP, which is definitely one of her strongest parts. 160 TP, 179 AP, 942 attack, 18 defense, 25 spirit, 88 quickness, and 291 dexterity with 322 luck. Move 3, jump of 2. And in terms of her resistances, the way they had her built, 10% slash, negative 10% for spear, 5% for fist, 15% down for shooting, and 26% in terms of magic, with some resistance to don't move, 10% resistance to charm, and half resistance to confusion. Sorry, half resistance to don't move as well. All right, taking a look at Christmas Venera in terms of her stats. Well, we've kind of talked about her stats already. She is potentially a very, very tanky character. She has a lot of HP, and given the fact that of what her equipment looks like on terms of the friend unit, 18 defense and 25 spirit is pretty good, considering, again, that equipment and the fact that her TMR that's on her really is only giving her 8 defense, and the ring is not particularly that great from what I remember looking at it. So yeah, she has a pretty high amount of spirit and even a decent amount of defense, considering what her stats are. Looking at her support skills, one that gives her an increase of accuracy that also gets improved as well by another skill. She has agility up and luck up from ninja. From fighter, she gets HP and attack up for herself. It also gets a defense penetration when she goes to EX job. Her spellblade gives her magic resistance and lightning resistance of 12% each. And of course, she has, last but not least, ninja gives her a move and jump +1. Looking at her counters, all of her counters are dead right up to her. Interestingly, her counter for fighter gets an upgrade, but it's only a damage increase, and it still needs to be directly next to the unit, so I'm not overly impressed with it. Ninja is the ninja one, which is counter all damage and 50% chance to cause poison. Meh. But I think her best one is probably on her Spellblade, given the obvious build that is building here. Chance to counter magical damage, and not only that, but with a reduction of magic damage taken by a maxed out 45% for the target. Given that she already has 25 spirit, and you could potentially build her for more spirit than that, and then you could just reduce the amount of magic damage taken. Yeah, Christmas Venera is very much a physical-based unit that is primarily targeted against mage units. And given that Yuna is just so prevalent right now, Sakura is really prevalent right now, and this element is out of the light and dark and away from a lot of other mages right now, minus Halloween Leela and Howlet. I think that this unit is very primarily designed to counter mages. But given that she has the fighter, you should not underestimate what she has in her main job. She has the teleport ability that fighters have. She has a way of restoring her own HP and giving her a defense increase for multiple turns. She has an attack with Human Killer as well. Just one with Human Killer, but that attack also gets a bonus in the EX that gives her a extra bit of damage modifiers to it, which is pretty good. And if she receives more damage, she ends up dishing more damage out. Increase modifier by 75% on a attack if the number of times you receive damage is 5. So taking damage, that's what you want, because she's going to hit way harder afterwards. She can increase her own strike with an ability and other users' strikes, which makes her a pretty good buff for other fist units, potentially Orin or Larudo. And she has defense penetration. And last but not least, she has a damage ability that has some good range on it, that not only that, decreases defense for 3 turns to the target and reduces healing power as well. Overall, a very strong fighter kit that could be used against mages, but also interestingly works against physical units too, which makes her just a tanky brawler of a character, but also doesn't have to worry about mages, which is kind of interesting. Subpart of her main job, fighter, basically only has the HP up, and not only that, but a attack that the more time she gets damage, essentially she does more damage against the counter. So yeah, it's fine. Ninja has basic ninja stuff: the attacks, the increased accuracy for self for 1 turn and a guaranteed critical hit. Move to a unit panel and inflict poison for 3 turns, and damage with a crit chance of 20%. Overall, I think her ninja is pretty underwhelming, but it's probably not what you're going to be running anyway. Last but not least is Spellblade, which has, of course, the magic-based attacks. Also has a track blade, too, which is kind of interesting, seeing that she has pretty good speed. 88 agility on the friend build unit is pretty nice, at least in my party composition as well. And not only that, but again, Trackblade is particularly good for her being a soft tank. And since she seems to be a pretty little tanky unit with ways of giving herself defense and having a really good spirit stat, yeah, I think her being a soft tank is particularly good. And of course, rounding out the thing that I really like here is the fact that her Spellblade also gives her a way to increase magic resistance of about 40% for 3 turns. So yeah, I think you kind of want to just run her fighter main job, because everything good is just there in the main part of her main job, and sub of Spellblade for making her incredibly resistant to magic attackers. That's exactly what this unit really does. You can probably hold her own pretty well against physical units, but she is 100% anti-mage, and that's kind of cool. Last but not least, let's take a look at that Limit Burst animation, which is flavorful, but kind of weird. Ah yes, Snowmen on an Earth unit. With a fire animation. What is it with fire animations and just every other element? That doesn't make it a fire unit, Gumi, Alright, but basically her Limit Burst is a pretty powerful ability that also can decrease Earth resistance by about 40% for 3 turns to a single target. So yeah, I think that overall, Christmas Venera is a pretty cool unit. I wouldn't say break the bank for her, though, because of the general problems that we do have with Fist units. Currently, Fist units are not overly well supported, in the fact that, they just don't really have a good summon yet, or a lot of good vision cards. And taking a look at Christmas Venera's, generally the way her stats and everything, I feel like they underpowered her a little bit. What I mean is essentially because there isn't a lot of tools out there for resistance against strike. We have fair amount of slash resistance stuff or piercing resistance stuff, but there isn't a lot of strike resistance out there currently. I feel like they underpowered Venera a little bit and just made her really, really tanky, which in the future could make her underperform a little bit against future Fist units if there is better support for it in the future. But again, strike still kind of feels like the neglected damage type here, and while I do think that Christmas Venera is definitely the strongest by far of all of the Christmas units, really not saying too terribly much. But hey, if you are looking for approval of Venera, yeah, I think she'll be particularly good, and she'll be a good, especially for accounts who are looking to be anti-mage for, arena or PvP, or, magic-based bosses. This is probably the unit that you are looking for. So anyway, that's all for this video. Take care, see you next time, and all that good stuff. And, yeah.